Are you tired of spending your time and money chasing strategy after strategy only to discover what worked 10, 5, or even 2 years ago is not working now? Things shift fast in the online space, and if you're not keeping up, you're getting left behind. It's time for something different. Welcome to the Marketing, Media, and Money Podcast, where every single episode will be jam-packed with proven, profitable strategies, behind-the-scenes secrets, and what's working now resources from industry experts and global influencers to help you scale your business, shorten your learning curve, and stand out in a crowded, noisy marketplace. And now, your host, award-winning marketing and media strategist, and international speaker, Patty Farmer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Marketing, Media, and Money Podcast. I'm really looking forward today to sharing another great and amazing industry expert with you today. And I really love what we're going to be talking about today because it's one of my favorite topics. And we have a real expert who's going to really go behind the scenes and share some really good tips with you, ninja strategies. And so make sure that you have a pen and a paper because we're going to have a lot of writer-downers. So before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about her. So Jennie Wright is a list building and lead generation expert who craves results for her clients. She's the creator of the List Build Academy and her weekly show, List Build and Lead. She's known as the queen of list building and lead generation. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the results she gets a little bit in depth as we get further in the show. But let's get started. Jennie, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Patty. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad to be here.
Really glad to have you. I have to tell you, we were introduced to each other by somebody who we have already had on the podcast, Allison Lex, and my favorite, and I think yours too, favorite copywriter.
Completely my favorite copywriter.
Yes, and she actually helped me with copy for my website as well. And so I really listen when she tells me you need to know someone. And so when she said you need to know Jennie, we just jumped right in. And I think we've had just multiple conversations before this. And when we got talking, we just kept talking because we had so many things to talk about. And that's what we're going to share with the audience today. So I just want to dive right in. So what made you decide and compelled you to really specialize in list building and lead generation?
Well, to be honest, I fell backwards into it from a corporate job that I was laid off from. Like I was packaged out and I didn't know what to do. And I ended up doing my first list build and it was atrocious. Somebody told me I needed to build my list to have an online business because that's what I decided I was going to do. And when I went to do it, I had a horrible time. It was incredibly difficult. I ran into wall after wall and it was incredibly unsuccessful. And I almost went and got a day job. So I kind of fell backwards into it, but then I realized that there's a market out there to help people because if I went through what I went through trying to build my list and how I just felt so bad about it and it was so hard, that I could help other people.
And I think that's really important because I think that sometimes it is just as important, maybe even sometimes more important, to know what not to do than it is to know what to do. And I know that for myself, there have been many things that I've kind of fallen into. I always like to say I'm an accidental speaker. But I think that's really important. One of the things I really want to talk about with list building is I think a lot of times people hear all the time it's about the size of your list. And I'm a huge component of it's not about the number, the size of your list, but more about the engagement of your list. And even though I have done list building pretty much most of my career and have an email list of well over 100,000 people, and not just 100,000 people, but 100,000 people that are engaged with, which I think is more important. So kind of where do you feel in on that? I don't think size matters when it comes to your list. I just think it comes down to engagement. So do you agree with me or do you have a different perspective?
I completely agree with you. And I want to preach that as much as humanly possible, simply because it's not about the size at all. I grew a 6-figure business from a list of 200. And that was before I started really growing my list. Obviously, I practice what I preach. I'm a list build expert. So I have I've grown my list and I've culled my list, meaning I've cleaned it as well. But I believe in a highly engaged list. And I believe that stems from your mindset and the offer that you put out in the world. So I'd rather people look at cultivating relationships rather than cultivating a number. The number means nothing.
I so love that, because I think that a lot of times we all change and we pivot and we evolve and we get clarity. So I love that you said about culling your list, because I know I vet my list, I want to say about twice a year. And I really love being able to go to my list and really honoring them and asking them, what is the information you would like to receive from me, and letting them pretty self-select what they want to get from me. So this way we're always putting, relevant content consistently in front of the people who want to receive that information. So I think vetting is really, really important. So let's talk a little bit about that. Do you have some strategies that you can share about really, we're going to really get into the list building in a second, but really, what do you think the importance of vetting is, and what are some strategies that you have in place that you do it?
I have all the strategies. Okay. Vetting is super important. And how you're going to do it is you're literally pre-qualifying people from your opt-in page. So I teach this in something that I was doing recently, a challenge that I was doing recently. But I had a whole bunch of people in a challenge, and I made them repeat this over and over. Everybody is not my customer. There is a very small select group of people that are your customers, your ideal clients. And if you can really focus and niche, and sub-niche down to those complete and ideal people and disqualify everybody else from getting into your opt-in page, you're going to have a much more robust list, and you're going to have a much better experience in terms of your open rate and who you're paying for as your, as people on your list and things like that. So my way of doing that is my opt-in page. My headline literally pre-qualifies people. It is the thing that makes it impossible for anybody else to want to join my thing or your thing. And it's just simply saying, like, you are in this free challenge, you'll receive or you'll discover X and X without Y. And a statement like that literally will only appeal to your ideal client, and it will discourage everybody else. And that is one huge way of doing it. I highly recommend that you, when you build out your list builds, that you speak to your ideal client and nobody else, and don't cast a wide net. Everyone is not your customer. It's just, you need to niche right down and then kind of be the expert like Patty has done in her niche. And then you can go from there. I'm sure like when you started, Patty, you were tight in your niche, and then you've expanded as you go. So I think that's the way to do it.
And I think like for me, because I do have a magazine and a podcast, and I'm a speaker, and I'm in marketing and media. So even though to me, they kind of do fall under the same umbrella for me, doesn't mean that somebody else who is my market, they may only want to hear about one or two of those things. And so I think it's really important to make sure that you stay relevant. I always like to say that one of the most important things about list building to me is that it isn't as much getting them to subscribe. That's actually kind of the easy part, is getting them to stay is where it comes in and gets to be the hard part, because we all know that everybody reads their emails with one finger on the delete button. And so it's like, yes, getting them to subscribe, that's step one. But getting them to stay, that is step two, and an even more important step sometimes. How do you feel about that?
Completely agree. And I have a solution to that. So if you have multiple areas that you're playing in, like Patty, you have a couple different areas that you play in, speaking, all these different kinds of things, then you need to start segmenting your list right from the get-go. Segmentation is how you're going to keep them to stay. So if you have segmentation in your list, you're creating different lists by interest. So some people want to hear about Patty Farmer, the speaker. And some people want to hear about Patty Farmer, like the marketing expert, right? And then there's probably another list and probably another list. There's also segmentation by products that they've purchased from you. So if you have a product, the people who have bought the product want to receive different information than the people who have not purchased the product. And people who've bought the product will probably be more inclined to buy another product. So you market to them differently. So segmentation is what keeps fingers off of the unsubscribe button more than anything else. And that keeps you relevant because you've created personalization in your list and the ability to speak to people almost on a one-to-one basis to their needs, as opposed to a blanket email to an entire list.
I agree with you 100%. I've been segmenting my list from the get-go. It just made sense to me from a marketing point of view and a strategy point of view. But not only that, but because it is about being relevant, but even within those. So when I vet my list those couple times a year and I ask them what they want to hear about, what they want, what they're interested in, and I tell them to click on all the ones that they are interested in, pretty much they're self-selecting to put themselves into the list of that. And it has really, really worked for me. I believe it's very, very important. So you're right. That is the solution for sure. Now, what do you think about a dead list? I was on a panel once about list building and we were all talking about it. I actually was talking about segmentation, as a matter of fact. And there was this guy on the panel who was talking about the so-called dead list. And what he was saying was that if you have people on your list that are not purchasing from you, that this is when it is really good to do affiliate marketing, because just because they're not buying from you doesn't mean that they're not interested in something somebody else is offering. And that is why sometimes you will get 50 different emails that will all go to the same person's launch, for example. And that a lot of times, if you've never purchased from them and you're wondering, why are all these people sending me this? It's because you're on their quote unquote dead list. Now, I have to tell you, I had never quite heard somebody say that before or talk about a dead list. And it didn't make me feel very good to think that maybe I was on somebody's dead list. But when he broke it down, I have to admit, I thought there were some points he made, but I just thought, oh, there's a much better way than doing that. And who in the world wants to be on somebody's dead list? So have you ever heard of that? And what is a strategy that you would say that you would do to not do that? Because for me, if somebody isn't purchasing from me, or they're really not interested, I just assume them not even be on my list, just because we all know that it actually costs you money to have people on your list. So why would you want somebody on your list that's not interested in what you're doing?
Yeah, although I find that strategy very interesting that gentleman shared with you. I'm not a huge fan of it because, one, we're paying for our people who are not active on our list. And two, I don't really love that model because sending affiliate opportunities to a quote unquote dead list, you're probably not going to wake it up. You're probably going to have really low open rates, really very low click-through rates. And you might actually get spam comments, which could affect your ability to deliver emails in the future. And I'm not a fan of that. So my way of dealing with a quote unquote dead list is I'm going to give it a little bit of a shock paddle, see if I can do some resuscitation. And then if I can't resuscitate, I do eliminate. So my technique for resuscitation of a list is to send them an email. And we can all, in segmentation, guys, you can tag people by if they're active or non-active, and you can create sequences that do this, these automations that, if somebody goes dormant for 3 months or 6 months, they get into this, shock paddle, almost automation. And I'll send them a bunch of emails and just saying, hey, we haven't opened an email in a while. Here's what's been going on. Click here if you want to keep receiving, or if you don't want to, then I wish you all the best, blah, blah, blah. We'll take care of making sure you don't get these anymore, and hope you have good luck with all you do. Right? So I try to revive them. I might send 1, 2, or even 3 emails like that. I'm kind of a 3 strikes you're out kind of gal. So if 3 strikes happens and it doesn't work, then I will create a purge, and I will purge them from the list, because I personally want them to focus on who they want to focus on. I want to focus on who I can help. And I also don't want to pay for people who are uninterested in the content that I'm preparing for them.
I love that. And I agree with you 100%. The reality is that we're all talking about building relationships and how relationships are the currency in today's business environment. It doesn't really sit well with me to be talking about a dead list when I'm all about building relationships. So those two things are pretty much, work against each other. So I don't really like that. But you've mentioned a couple times something that I think is really important. And that is really open rates and click-throughs. And I think a lot of times people want to have a lot of conversation about what really constitutes an open rate. What are the things that when you're looking at your analytics for things you send out, what do you think are the most important things you should be looking at? And what are some of the things that people look at that the reality really is those aren't as important?
That's an excellent question. So yeah, people get obsessed with their open rates and their click-through rates and things like that. I personally use ActiveCampaign for my email marketing, and I can do some drill down reports. My drill down reports can show me the best time of day to email, if people are viewing on mobile or desktop, and a lot of programs do this. And I can go through and I can see where my people are in the world and what are they looking at in my email, what links are they clicking on, and things like that. So I actually optimize my emails by using that drill down data a lot. And I've used that drill down data to actually improve my conversations in my emails. My open rates, although important to me, if I see my open rate dropping for any reason, then I look at my headlines and I wonder why. Or I look at the topics that I send and make sure that I'm sending to the right segment in my audience, because I might have included the wrong segment in my audience. I'm not sure. So I'll take a look at these kinds of things. I'm not obsessed with my open rate, but I tend to get a little obsessive about my click-through rate, because to me, I find that people bury their links at the bottoms of emails. And I'm a big proponent of having my links closer to the top. I believe in an almost quote unquote above the fold version of having my links in emails. And I might put one in the PS. And I found that as soon as I did that, my click-through rates increased, which was lovely because I was trying to get people to take a look at a page or another product or somewhat. So although I'm not a huge, I guess I don't freak out over open rates and click-through rates, I do see their importance and I see them as a way to optimize. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think it's really important too, but a lot of times, people don't realize that there's a lot of way to read an email now without actually opening it. So they're not always accurate numbers either. So I think that, I choose to not really get upset about that as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like think about it. When you look at your emails, depending on the program you're looking at them in, you can see those first couple sentences that could, those that byline that they can see before they open it. And that is a really, really good marketing tool. It's very underutilized. I know a lot of people who don't actually use that little byline, that little intro line that people can actually see as they're on their phones or even on their desktop email systems that they're using. I use that like crazy. And I test it and I put people's names in it. And I do also, I'll put emojis and stuff like that. Like I tested all these different things to see what actually works. And I've optimized my emails just from that.
I really think that's a good idea. I know for me, I use Outlook when I'm reading my email.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read my email, I have the preview window on the side, full size. And I literally can read pretty much my whole email without ever double clicking to open it. So I know when people send things to me, unless I'm going to take action, I don't actually really double click and open them up. I just read them myself.
And not everybody does that. I mean, that's a trick. That's a really good trick, but not everybody does that. Most people just have their phone set or their desktop set to that default where you might get like one sentence. So I like how you've done it because I like how you've done it, but you're definitely affecting somebody's open rate.
For sure. But I just feel like for me, I'm going to open it. I'm going to take time because everything for me is my email list, and my email and my inbox. I just need it to stay clean, right? And so what I want to be able to do is to look at it and decide what the action is that I'm going to take. And I have folders on the side that pretty much tell me what to do, right? And so if I'm reading something and I want to take action, but maybe I can't right now, I have a folder for that. When I'm reading something, and I never end my day. Now, everybody else probably doesn't do this, but I don't end my day without emptying that folder of what the action folder is. But then I have ones that maybe I just like their copy, right? I'll look at them and I'll say, oh, I love the way they word this, and I love the way they did this. And while I am really strong about never, ever, stealing anybody's copy, it doesn't mean it can't give you any ideas, right? It's a great to have what I like to call swipe folder of things that just resonate with you. And so I'll put that in another folder, right? And so for me, I have the things that I'm going to do right there. And if not, then once I've read it, then I can delete it. But I want to know what it is I need to do. I got to tell you, there was a time, I don't like to admit this, I used to have like 7,000 emails in my inbox because I just didn't take action to clean out my inbox. I was terrible at it. And finally, I just made the decision like 2 years ago that was not going to be me anymore. And it took me a long time to actually clean that out. So now I'm a real component of decide what it is you're going to do with that email. Either take action on it, right? What is the purpose? And that's why I do it that way. But, from somebody who literally has to make decisions all day long, not to say that other people don't too, but for me, I just know what my weaknesses are and what my strengths are. And if I'm going to take action on something, even though you might decide yes now, but you don't have time to take out your wallet and to do this and to do that, right? You're not in the right place. So the way I do it makes it so that I know that I don't have to look through my whole inbox again. I just need to look in the action folder. So before I end my day, I take action on all those things. So that actually works for me. May not work for everybody else, but
no, it's a great system. I love that system. I mean, I have a swipe folder in my email. I actually have gone so far, and I think you and I chatted about this on one of our chats, our long chats, that I actually have a dummy email address that serves as my swipe email. And so I don't have any emails that I don't want going into my work email. Everything goes into the swipe email. And I just monitor that, and I just go through that once a day, and I organize it by the swipe I want to keep, and I get rid of the rest. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing because all the copy stuff goes in there. And if I don't want to pay attention to it, I don't. And I can let it build up for a day or two. I'm fine. But I agree with you fully. Like every single day, I make sure my inbox is completely clean. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them being I have clients and I have to make sure that my clients are checked on and everything everything we've been talking about or whatever they need is taken care of, or I get it to the right person to take care of it. So yeah, every night that thing is taken care of for sure.
I love that. So now that we're talking about this, I know a lot of people will say to me, Patty, that's really great that you can do all these different things, but I'm just not techie. So I'm just going to ask you, with all the things you do, from the summits to the list building to challenges and webinars and all these different things that I know you do and help your clients with too, on a scale of 1 to 10, how techie are you?
About a 9.97.
I love that you were so honest. Okay, so let me say this. So for people who are not, I always like to say, and I have built my business on working in my brilliance and hiring people to work in theirs. So when there's somebody like you who's 9.97, right, techie on a scale of 1 to 10, if somebody else was a 3 or a 4, they don't have to try to figure this stuff out. That's sort of what you're for, right?
100%. Absolutely. I always tell people, stay exactly in what you need to be doing. You need to be creating the content. You need to be creating the visionary ideas. You need to be the visionary in your business and nothing else, and hire it out. It actually will save you a boatload of time and money. Even in the beginning, when you feel like you have no money, to send it to somebody else. Do you need to be spending 7 hours building an opt-in page in a new piece of software you don't understand? It would take somebody like me, like maybe an hour and a half to create it from start to finish. That's going to save you a lot of money. And it's going to convert better.
Absolutely. So I have a question. What would your advice be to a brand new entrepreneur or business owner, maybe even someone who has been an entrepreneur for a while, but just stepping into this space? What would your advice be to them if they have like zero list and they're just stepping into space? What would your advice be to them of what they should be doing first?
I love that because I work with a lot of brand new people, lots of newbie people into the entrepreneur space. I've helped them grow their lists, which is great. The first thing they need to, in my opinion, be working on is getting clarity in their messaging and who they want to serve. Every brand new entrepreneur has a bit of a mindset screw up where they think they need to serve everybody because they just want to get clients. So this is again where I say everybody is not your customer. You have a very select group of people that would be your potential customers, your potential clients, and you need to hone down on your messaging. And it's a painful experience mentally sometimes. The other thing that I recommend is that you get really consistent. So even if there's nobody on your list, I still want you creating content every single week like you're talking to 1,000 people. If you get used to doing that, the people start to come. They land on your page and they go, oh, it says this page has been around since 2018, but there's only one post on it and it was from like Halloween. So if you create consistent content and they go to your page and like, wow, there's like 30 posts and they're really, really cool. And you know what, all these kinds of things, people are going to take you more seriously right off the bat because they're going to think, wow, she knows her stuff. You're going to hone your message. You're going to get better at writing. You're going to get better at video if you do video. You're going to get better at creating your conversation. And then you're going to start building your list. I'm not saying wait a year. I'm just saying get clarity on who you serve and how you serve them. In the meantime, while you're doing that, it might take you a couple of weeks. you're going to continue to create content.
I love that. That's a great answer. I was looking at some of the stats that you gave me, which I think are great. And I just kind of want to tell the viewers. So here's how she knows her stuff. She has done nearly 250 online summits, 40 digital challenges, 100 plus webinars, and more every single week. She's run 3 successful Facebook groups and used them to generate thousands of leads for herself and her clients. So you know your stuff. Like, we have industry experts on the podcast, and we really want to make sure that we're talking about what is working now, not 2 years ago or 5 years ago, but what's working now. So with that said, with all of those stats that I just shared, how has Facebook groups worked for you in lead building? Everybody now is all about, Facebook group. And, I just got done this week, really kind of going through those too. And I see all kinds of Facebook groups, right? I mean, just the whole gamut of different kinds of Facebook groups. So let me hone down the question here. So what do you believe is the most successful from a list building and lead generating filter? So from that, what is the best model have you found to have in a Facebook group for that purpose?
For that purpose, I would recommend, this is going to be fun. I'm going to recommend that you have a Facebook group that is incredibly focused exactly on what you're doing. It almost even has the same name as maybe the program that you're creating, just for brand recognition. But what I love having inside that for lead generation is having consistent content and it not being about promotion. So make it so that the group is not one of those promo groups where people can just post their, buy my oils, buy my skincare regime thing, because that's going to lower the, almost like bring it down a little bit. You want it to be sort of a higher level. But inside of a Facebook group, the things that I love seeing people doing are challenges or themes or a whole bunch of Facebook lives, doing like a week-long Facebook live promo where you do a training every single day in your Facebook group for an entire week, teaching a concept or talking about a thing, and then inviting people to book a call with you if you do, say, coaching or sell like a coaching package or something. Those work super, super well. Having theme days, I mean, those have been around for eons, but they still work, but they have to be different. They can't be just Share Tuesday and Contemplation Wednesdays. Like, they have to be a little bit different, and they have to have a bit of a deeper connection. Like, in a Facebook group, you're trying to create connection. People are on Facebook all day long. When they get a notification from you, you want them to go, oh, wow, Patty put something out. I got to go in the group, as opposed to, really, another thing from Patty. Okay, I'm just going to click on stop notifications for this. You know what I mean? Like, you want them to go to the groups. You've got to create these connections.
And I also think that one of the things too is, and I know I have several groups myself. And one of the things that I noticed and I changed up is I love groups with promo threads on some things. Like, I think I like it because I know, what are the days that we're going to be talking about this, or the days we're going to be talking about that. While I do like that, what I noticed is sometimes when you have Facebook groups where they have a lot of promo threads for this is what we're going to do today, that people pick the ones they like, and those are the only days they come into the Facebook group. And those are the kind of the me people, right? And they just want to participate but not contribute. Yeah. And I don't really like that. And so I like to change them up too. I have to tell you, one of the ones that's really working for me right now is in my group, in my actual marketing, media, and money group. Today was Water Cooler Wednesday. And basically, this is all about whatever things we want to discuss around the water cooler about how to scale our business. And it's kind of wide open for discussion. And I love the things that people talk about, because it's not niche down to, today we're going to talk about this. It's kind of a little bit more open. But I have to tell you, people will say, well, I kind of want to talk about this, and this is happening, and I want to talk about that. And it seems like we're getting a lot of engagement in there, people wanting to talk about.
Well, you're creating a forum for discussion.
Yes. And I'm having a lot of fun with that one. I really like it. But, there's a lot of different ways, like you said. But I also see ones where there's Facebook groups where the only person who gets to promote anything or is posting anything is the host. And that kind of seems like a one-sided conversation. I'm not really fond of those.
Me neither.
I'm not really fond of ones that have 15,000 people in them either. And everybody is like, every single time somebody asks a question, 1,000 people answer when they say, oh, who here does this? I'm looking for this, and 1,000 people. I mean, like, that kind of doesn't really appeal to me either. So I really feel like there's some shifting going on in Facebook.
There is.
And I think that they can be a real benefit to what you're talking about, or not.
I closed a Facebook group with almost 3,000 people in it because it had turned from what I wanted it to be into, because you have metrics in Facebook groups. You can look and see how active people are. And my group had a promotional thread on a certain day. And the only time the group was active was on the promotional thread day. And everybody was just throwing their whatever up in there and asking, for people to opt in or buy or whatever the case was. And the group had become less about what it had been built for and more about that. And that was early on. That was a learning experience for me because I was still learning about Facebook groups and really how to manage one and how to grow one and everything like that. So I actually ended up closing that group because I just didn't feel in alignment with anymore. And I've grown a couple other ones in the meantime. And the ones that I have now, if there's X amount of people in there, then 80% of the people are active. There's posts going all the time. It's more like the posts that I put out are much better. Sure, there's the occasional promo post, which is fine. And it's definitely not one-sided. I believe in like multiple conversations and stuff like that. And you use your Facebook group to hone on your message and test things out. It's lots of fun to actually do that. Even if your group has 55 people, it can be an amazing opportunity and lead generation tool. But you do have to promote it. You do have to let people know that it's there. So make sure it's hooked up to your business page. Make sure, it's on your autoresponders. Make sure it's on your Facebook, like on your website and things like that, so that people can find it. If they can't find it in the grand space of Facebook, then you're going to miss out.
That makes a lot of sense. So now that you've done so many more summits, though, so I think 250 summits, 40 challenges, 100 plus webinars. So of all of those, do you have a favorite?
I do. I have a favorite depending on the goal. If the goal is to create more connection and have a more active list build where you're actually helping and serving and you're really deep in the weeds with these people, then I highly recommend a challenge. I'm actually recommending challenges for all of 2020 because challenges are incredibly engaging and you can have an amazing result from these things when they're done properly. That's my caveat. They have to be done properly. Summits are fantastic for what I call a list build injection. So a nice injection into your list. And you can create them so they are really highly connective and go deeper and whatnot. But it's a little bit, the model itself creates a different look and feel. So I love summits, obviously. I've done about 250 of them. I adore them. I think they're fabulous. And they really do position you as an expert. And it creates joint venture opportunities and all these things. But if you've done a summit, then I highly recommend a challenge.
I love that. And where do you feel the webinars? Like one of the things that I've been seeing a lot of is the 3 webinars. Like here's this one, and then here's 2, and then here's 3. And each one of the 3 give you something like, oh, here's a directory of this. Oh, here's a worksheet of this. Here's a this. And then the 4th one is really where they invite you into whatever their launch is. Mm-hmm. And I'm starting to see them over and over like the same. What do you think about those? Do you feel they're effective? Do you think there's another way? Because one of the things that happens is sometimes I don't hear about them till we're on the 3rd one. And then, of course, you can go back and do the other ones. But now I'm thinking, oh, this one looks really interesting. But I don't have time now to do 3 hours worth of the first one, the second one, and the 3rd one, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think sometimes like, no, for me, I get up very, very early. And I want to look at things and watch things in my time.
Yep.
So I'm not the component of doing things live myself just because of my schedule. I know there's a lot of people that like to do that. Mm-hmm. But for me, I really like to do things on my schedule.
So in what you're saying with that particular style, that style has been around for a long time. It's still being utilized and it pops up occasionally. You'll see like this, because the person who teaches that style, after they've launched their particular course and how to do that style, then you see a whole bunch of them. So that style you're seeing is quite prevalent. It's been around for about 5 or 6 years. And although it has some effectiveness, I'm not a fan of it myself, simply because I don't think I could do this. I don't think I could sustain it like that. And then I don't want to participate in 3 or 4 hours of training to learn about the offer at the very, very end. So what I like to do and what I recommend clients do is you do a list build like a challenge or a summit. And then when that concludes, then I would recommend doing 2, 3, or even 4 webinars in quick succession within 8 days of the close of your event. I know that sounds really quick, but 8 days, because your people are still hot. So if they join your challenge or your summit and they've been with you for a couple of weeks, then as soon as that finishes, they're looking for the next thing. And we don't want them to look for the next person. We want them to look at you. So you need to be the next thing. So 8 to 10 days max is when I want everybody to actually do the next set of actions from their list build. And a webinar is great, but I believe that every webinar could have a call to action as opposed to a training, because whatever it is that you've done, whatever list build you've created, in my opinion, should be the training. And then the webinar is taking down people's blocks around perhaps receiving help for the problem or solution that you can provide. And then you can make an offer like that. And by then, people pretty much trust you, if that makes sense. So I don't like to use webinars as a list build. I don't think they're as effective. They had their day, in my opinion. People can disagree with me, but I believe
they're good for nurturing.
They're fantastic for nurturing. They're fantastic. And I love actually doing a combination of do a challenge, follow the challenge with a workshop, follow the workshop with a webinar, and every single one of them has a call to action. Nobody's surprised when you make the call to action. I mean, I even put it on my Facebook ads, or I even put it on my opt-in page, like spend 5 days with me in this online challenge. You're going to get all this free information. And if you stick around, I will have an incredible offer to see if we can continue working together at the end. I don't lie about it. It's right there in the open. And I do that throughout my entire messaging. And I express to my clients that I think they should do the same. Everybody knows you're going to get pitched, but if they know it's coming and you're authentic and you're open about it, people are not going to go, oh, here we go. Here's the pitch start. Here we go. And they're going to leave. They know it's coming. And if you're open about it, people are going to respond differently.
I absolutely agree with you. I think that is really important. And that's how you build trust with people, right? I don't think we should hide things. Let's be upfront. You know, it kind of leads me to thinking about when I go to live events, right? So I'm a speaker. And when I go to live events, and sometimes when I'm walking around, I'm talking to people, I'll hear this in different ways of saying it, but I hear this. And they'll say something like, oh, I'm here, but I'm not really planning on buying anything. Mm-hmm. And I laugh because I think to myself, why would you spend the money to get on a plane, pay for a hotel, food, all of this money that you're doing, and you're not going to buy anything? I mean, I walk into every single event. I go to every summit. I do everything I'm spending my time doing, whether it's a challenge, a summit, a webinar, every single time. My hope is that the person that's there is going to have just the thing that I'm looking for the next thing I want to do. Like, that's Absolutely. What I want. I mean, like, yeah. I'll be sorely bummed at the end if you don't. Like, that's what I want. I didn't spend my time or my money to do something and then say, oh, no, I'm not looking for anybody to sell me anything. Really? I mean, I think that, the best ROI you're ever going to get is when you invest in yourself. So I think that is important. Now, what I do love to kind of take that to the online summits that you're talking about, what I love about online summits myself is that, just like what you were saying in the beginning, not every person is your ideal client. Not every person is going to be talking about the thing that you are working on now. So I know for me that when I go to summits, I like to look at who's speaking on the summits. I love it when they send me the advanced agenda, right? Mm-hmm. And then I can look at it, and I'm probably not going to have enough time to go to everyone, but I look and say, okay, so where I am in my business right now, what's on the agenda for me, and what's my plan? And then pick which ones are the number one things I want to listen to live, or they're going to be on my schedule in the mornings for what I'm going to do the day after they were live, and I get the replay. But then I always, and if you don't do this, people, like me writing this down, then you should write down who all the speakers were and what was their area of expertise. And even though I may not listen to every single one, I only don't listen to it because right now that's not what I'm focusing on, and I don't want to do squirrel, right? I need to stay focused on what I'm doing, but I always want to know who to come back to. And I always look at how many, and if 50% of them, however many there are, if 50%, this is just my rule, have something that I find interesting. Doesn't have to be something that I am implementing right now. But if I look at that and say, oh, okay, that's something I either want to do, want to learn another strategy from it, I'm already doing, and they may have some different ways to promote it, I purchase the replays.
Yes.
Even if I can't watch them now, I purchase them and I say, okay, maybe this isn't what I need right now, right? Or maybe it's something that would help one of my clients, meaning, that I may learn a strategy that, I may be thinking, oh, I could learn something right here. Maybe there's another way to help my client, And so I think it's really, really important. So I think people should look at those and say, right, just like right now, you don't have, it might not be what you're doing. Maybe not every person is your client right now, but I think you should be looking at who the experts are that are in the know right now, right?
Correct.
Not people 5 years ago. Who is out there in the trenches right now getting it done? And then just figure out what is it that you need. And I also look at that list and say, okay, I look at who my clients are and I think, okay, I think my clients need to know about this, this, or this. And then I send them the sign up link to my clients and say, hey, I think you should sign up for this because we're going to be talking about this, this, and this. And we were just talking about that the other day, right? I may be their marketing person and I'm going to be helping them with implementation. Great. But, why should I listen to every single thing and then go back and, what I see people do, it cracks me up.
What's that?
I'm going to try not to go on a rant right now. But I see people who will go to things or watch things, and then they will say, oh, you don't need to do it. I'll just give you the cliff notes. Here's the 10 takeaways I took. And then people don't go and do it because they think, oh, I don't need to spend my time doing that. I'm just going to listen to their 10 takeaways. Well, you know what? The mistake in that is that that's just from her point of view or his point of view. And
Right.
what his and her takeaways may not be the same takeaways you would take for your business. So if that person that you're trusting to listen to her takeaways thinks it was important enough to go, why aren't you for your own business? Like step up and be the CEO of your own business and don't rely on having a cheat sheet from somebody else do the work.
Correct. I completely agree with you.
So I love that. So all these online summits that you do, what are some of the questions that maybe people should be thinking about to know whether doing their own online summit is a good thing for them, or maybe having a challenge? So are there certain things that they should ask themselves about their business so they would know that maybe they're kind of in the space and that maybe this is something they should add to their marketing strategy?
Perfect. So question number 1, do you have a product, program, or service to sell? Answer is going to be yes. We're all looking to create and find leads. Question number 2, do you need leads for the rest of the year? Or are you good? If you have enough leads, you don't need to do what I'm talking about. If you need leads to get you through the rest of the year, then you need to keep building your list. Question number 3, is your list engaged? If your list is engaged, great, you still need to list build, but it depends on how much you're looking to list build. If you know that you need a very big list injection, then a summit is the way to go. If you're looking to top it up before you launch a program, product, or service, a challenge is fantastic. So it's kind of a bit of a Goldilocks situation. So the perfect porridge depends on what you need, and it's different for every single person. So if you tell me that you want to launch a group coaching course, right now you have 500 people on your list, and your engagement is so-so, then I would say do a summit, grow your list by an extra 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, whatever it's going to be for you. It could be more, I don't know. But grow your list by having that big list injection from a summit. And then you're going to be able to sell more people into your group coaching program, because notoriously, group coaching programs are anywhere between 1% and 5% conversion rate from your list. So it's a bit of a numbers game there, but it's more about the engagement, I have to say. I'm not going to chase the numbers. If you have a program, product, or service that's coming out and maybe it's a digital course, or maybe it's a one-on-one coaching package, then if you have engagement on your list and you're pretty happy with your list, but you need to rev up your list to get them ready, we call that a pre-launch runway. If you need to do pre-launch runway, then do a challenge. It will rev up a somewhat quiet list. It'll add new people to the list who are incredibly just really in tune with what you're doing and super, super connected, because challenges will do that. You can become somebody's best friend in 5 days in a challenge, and they just literally will want to stay with you forever. Like I recently did a challenge, and I had people joking around in the group that they're my new stalkers because they started following me everywhere. Everything I was doing online, they were there. Every Facebook Live, they were there. People who never knew me a week before were now my best friends. So it depends on your end goal. I think a summit is a great opportunity for almost everybody. I think a challenge is great for almost everybody, but you do need to discern where your goals are and what you need, and you need to plan ahead. So that would be the short answer.
It was a great answer, though. One of the things that you said earlier, to go back to that, where you were talking about one of your solutions was segmentation.
Yes.
I really find that segmenting works really well with summits, because I know for me, as somebody who has a large list, but also somebody who gets asked a lot to speak on summits, I really love it because when I segment by a lot of different things. And so one of the questions I always love to ask the people who invite me to speak on their summit is, who is it that you want to be in front of? So this way, I'm not just sending it to people like, so they say, oh, we're really looking for people who have a list of 5,000 people. Well, obviously my list is way more than 5,000. But I'll be like, well, which 5,000 are you looking for? And when they tell me, I'll be like, okay, so now I can be very strategic and send it not just a random 5,000 people, 5,000 people that meet what it is that they're actually looking for, so I can really serve and support them and serve and support my list too, so that I'm not sending them things that really aren't what they're interested in too. So I think segmenting and learning the art, because I think that's an art, of segmenting really goes hand in hand well with summits and challenges too. So I think that those things together really, really work well.
Absolutely. Segmentation, I mean, if people ask me when they should start segmenting, the best time was yesterday and the next best time is today. So even if you have no event coming up or anything that you're doing coming up necessarily, segmentation can be what you're actually already working on. It's important. And it will, I mean, it can set up your year really, really well. And the easiest way to segment, guys, is just to do a survey. If you have the ability, like Patty does inside her email marketing software, where it's like, do you want to hear about this? Click. Do you want to hear about this? Click. And it automatically will tag them and put them into different audiences. And that's her way of segmenting in a way. Then great. If you don't, you can create a survey within an email, and you can tell your service to add a tag when they try and click a link here or there, or you can get the results. Like you can, there's lots of ways that you can survey and segment, but that would be one thing to do. Even if you're doing nothing right now, even a 3-question survey will help you with segmentation.
Absolutely. And I absolutely even segment my social media. And there is not, like, I have a few less than 5,000 on my Facebook personal wall. And there is not one of those people on my Facebook wall that is not segmented. Every single person, as soon as I do one of two things, either I send them a friend request or they send one to me. Because one of the things that's really great is if you send a friend request, even if they haven't accepted it yet, you can go ahead and put them in the list, which is really kind of funny. So that way, when they do accept it, because not everybody does it the same day, right? That they will go into the list. So I have everybody segmented by state, major city within that state, what the interest is. I mean, do they have a podcast? Are they a speaker? Do they blog? Content market? I mean, whatever the case may be for me, but whatever it would be for each person. And I really like knowing where they live too, because as a speaker, I travel all over. It has done so much for me being able to, when I go to an event, I just pull up that list. Oh, I'm going to be in Chicago. Oh, well, let me just pull up all my friends. Who knows where all 5,000 of your friends live, right? So I just pull it up and say, oh, who are my friends? You go into Facebook. Who are my friends that live in Chicago? Go to that list, send one, Facebook post that is targeted and custom to just them to say that you're going to be in town, right? Not everybody wants to hear all of that, right? So this way you're making it relevant. And it has done a lot for me too. So I segment my social media in every single way that I can. You are 100% correct. Segmentation is the solution for almost everything when it comes to leads and list building.
Yep, absolutely. Even if you've got 50 people on your list, you can segment them.
And they should start right in the beginning, so they don't have to do it for 5,000, right? Yep. If you do it right in the very beginning, right, then you can just know every single thing. So I really love that. So whether it's with your list, email list, or whether it's social media, really segmenting really makes a lot of sense. So Jennie, man, you have just shared so much value. I really love that. How can people connect with you? I know they're going to want to, so how can they connect with you?
I can be found. I love connecting with people on Facebook. So you can check out my business page on Facebook. It's under Jennie Wright. I have a website that's under construction, but you can still go check out the messiness of it right now. It's at jennywright.com. And then those would be probably the two best ways to kind of get in touch with me.
I love that. And of course, like every good guest, you came bearing gifts too, which is really, really nice. So I know you have a gift for the audience as well. So why don't you tell them a little bit about the gift and then how they can get it?
Okay, I will try and keep this brief because I had so much fun with this. So I've created the Level Up List Build Challenge, and it is an amazing challenge. The first time I ran this thing, it was completely off the rails. How many people were in it, and the connection we were making, and the changes people were seeing. It's not like any other list build challenge that you've ever done because it talks about mindset and strategies and technology. It's 5-day training plus 10 bonus trainings. And I've even thrown in a couple extra ones that I won't even tell people about because they're just in there and you'll find them. So leveluplistbuildchallenge.com. It's a 5-day challenge. It's all evergreen and you get everything you need every single day and you just move through it. And there's even a Facebook group that's quite active to support you guys through the whole thing.
And how do they get that?
Oh, I'm so sorry. leveluplistbuildchallenge.com.
Perfect. And the link will be in the show notes. So if you kind of get lost in there, you don't have to worry about it. It will be in the show notes. Mm-hmm. So Jennie, here's the point that we get to in the show. It's one of my favorite parts of the show. And this is when we do what I like to call the open mic segment. And this is where I hand off the mic. This is kind of my version of #social karaoke, where we really want you to share your best marketing media or money strategy, tip, tool, or resource with the group. So I'm going to hand off the mic to you and share with us your best stuff. What's your best strategy?
My absolute best strategy is creating, well, if you're going to guess it, it's going to be a list build followed by a deep, deep connection so you guys can get loads and loads of clients really quick. Every list build that I want you guys to do, and I'm going to recommend a challenge or a summit for this year, both, if not more, multiple times. I want you to include, if you're doing any kind of coaching, I want you to include a free 20-minute call for everybody. And I don't want you to go, oh my God, I don't have time for that. We make time for what's important. If you want leads that you can close, and if you have a premium package, you do need to talk to people, I want you to include a free 20-minute call for everybody. You can segment that call. You can really create an entry process for that call by having a bunch of questions to sort of pre-qualify people. So don't worry, you're not going to be talking to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that wants to talk to you. You will be doing some evaluation to make sure they're a good fit for what you want to do. But I've had a client, I did a summit with the client that we did a free call for everybody who joined up, and we did a 45-minute call for everybody who bought the VIP packages, the replays. And it was $100,000 in sales from that summit because she did about 200 calls and she closed probably about a quarter of that. And that was $100,000 in sales. So if you want a 6-figure summit or a 6-figure list build and you've got a coaching package, that would be my biggest recommendation. And that's one of my best strategies. My other strategy is called List Building 2.0. And that is using permission and authentic marketing, attraction marketing basically, so that you're not coming across as a salesy person and you're going 90%, but you're letting your potential leads come that last 10% using permission marketing. So they're constantly saying yes to you. I'm always asking that question. May I show? May I serve? May I give you this? Would you like to see this? If you can input that into your marketing strategy where it's all like, it's not come get my XYZ ABC. It's, can I show you something that I think might be helpful to you? If this sounds interesting, let me know and I'll send it to you. It's a completely different look and feel. So permission marketing and authentic marketing and my version of List Build 2.0, which is a completely different chat, but we can have that at some point, is the way that I would give you my best strategy.
That is fabulous. Thank you so much, Jennie, for being here on the show and just sharing your brilliance so generously. I love that.
It's been my absolute pleasure, Patty. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. So everyone, if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Remember that sharing is caring, and we would love to invite you to join us in our Marketing, Media, and Money magazine podcast and event Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/marketing, media, money. So we would love to have you be able to get up close and personal with our experts. So until the next episode of the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast, make it a great day.
Thank you for joining us today on the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. To shorten your learning curve even more, make sure to grab your free copy of the Marketing, Media, and Money magazine at www.marketingmediamoney.com. I promise your business will thank you.